Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Couch Potato Podcast. On today's show, good friend Jason makes his Couch Potato Podcast return. Him and I are going to talk a little baseball, which we've been meaning to do for quite a while, but haven't been able to make it happen yet. But him and I are going to talk a little baseball. We're going to give our thoughts on Aaron Judge's home run record, who we think are going to win the awards in baseball, kind of our thoughts on how our teams, the Guardians and the Reds, did this year, and who we're going to pick to win the World Series. So after the guitar riff, Jason comes back to the Couch Potato Podcast. So what's going on, man? How you been?
Not bad. A lot of interesting sports stuff coming up about this time of year.
Yeah, this is my favorite time of the year. College football, NFL in full swing, NBA getting ready to start, NHL getting ready to start, and, of course, baseball's playoffs are starting, which is I think that's what we're going to talk about today. I haven't really had much of a chance to focus on baseball too much this year. I don't know if it's just the fact that I've kind of lost some interest in it this year. I don't know if you feel the same way I do, but
I mean, there was a lot of things that changed this year. I mean, everyone went to the DH, and I mean, they went back to the runner on second base, the extra inning rule that I don't care for.
Oh, that rule sucks so bad. Like,
yeah,
that rule really sounds like what we used to do when we would play baseball at like one of the fields around here. It's like, okay, run, like kind of like the pitcher's hand rule. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically if the pitcher gets the ball back before you get to first base, you're out instead of throwing it to the first baseman.
Yeah, or the ghost man rule.
Yeah. I think for me, it was just that whole lockout just kind of like, I don't know, once they locked in, I'm like, okay. I was super excited at the beginning of the year, and then once they locked them out, I'm like, I don't know. It just kind of started, my interest got deflated after that.
Well, I think mine started probably a day or two after the lockout. I mean, I was so fired up when the lockout ended. Mm-hmm. And then we traded, for some Reds fans, so they trade Winker and Suarez, and they trade Sonny Gray. Mm-hmm. And then all the stuff that happened during the year. And, I mean, it just puts a damper to start the year. And then as you go on and you're losing more and more players, yeah, it was a tough season. I mean, I still watched all the Reds games, but yeah, it stunk this year.
Yeah. Well, I think that might have been part of my problem too, is I honestly didn't think the Guardians were going to be very good this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they had pretty much, it was going to be Jose Ramirez, Shane Bieber, and a bunch of kids. I thought they would probably be good maybe next year, certainly the year after, but I wasn't expecting anything from them this year. And then my son actually, he like just told me one day, goes, "Hey, Dad, you know like the Indian," or yeah, he still calls them the Indians, so do I, because you know the Guardians are only like a game and a half out of first place. I'm like, excuse me, what? So that kind of piqued my interest a little bit, and I still like, okay, they'll probably collapse. It's just one of those young teams. Almost had that major league feel. Like, okay, they kind of rallied together, but they're not going to be able to hold off the White Sox or the Twins. And then they gave me a big fuck you and said, watch this. And then, of course, ran away with the division.
I mean, I think most people picked them to finish fourth, and I probably would have agreed with them.
Yeah, I thought third was probably the best case scenario, because I didn't think they were better than the Twins. I didn't think they were better than the White Sox. Kansas City probably.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of the geniuses were saying the Tigers would compete. Now, I mean, I still say Javi Baez is one of the worst signings of the year.
Oh,
but I mean, the kids that they have coming up, I mean, they have second year of Casey Mize, and then they had Torkelson, and they had Riley Green. And I mean, it was something to be excited about, and then they just kind of shit the bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I kind of expected that division to be basically kind of like very top heavy, and then like the bottom feeders are just going to be horrible. But I don't know. I was pleasantly surprised and got a Guardians playoff win, which made it even better. So they're actually into the divisional round.
Yeah, that was a tough game to watch last night.
It was. I watched some of it, but like you and I were talking before we came on, I've kind of become my grandpa. Like once I sit in my chair, it's like I get comfortable, and then it's like my mouth opens up like a drawbridge, and then it's like I'm fucking done. Once that mouth gets wide open, I'm through. No waking up. So I didn't get to finish it. I mean, thank God I didn't because they lost. But
yeah, that was. I mean, they battled there for a while, and then I mean, it's the Yankees. It's just
well, before we go into the meat and potatoes of the episode, Reds are not in the playoffs. If I read it right, first time in years they've lost. I know since that I can remember, first time they've lost 100 games in quite a while.
First time since 1982, and only the second time in history.
Okay, so I would have been 4 when they did that.
Yeah.
Which I was
2.
Yeah, a little baseball fan, not a big baseball fan yet. Do you think were there signs that they're going to be better next year, or do you think it's going to be more of the same next year too?
I think next year's probably going to be more of the same. I mean, they've got some exciting guys coming up, but I still think the guys that are the ones to look out for are probably late next year, early 2024 would be the year to keep an eye on them. I think Ellie De La Cruz is the exciting one to keep an eye on. He may start the year next year with them. Because I don't want to give up on Jose Barrero at this point, but this De La Cruz kid is pretty darn special. And I think he could be probably one of the top shortstops in the next 3 or 4 years, and the national, probably in baseball. But it's all a matter of adjusting. I mean, we've seen these kids that have the big names. I mean, Torkelson would be one. I mean, a lot of people picked him to be the AL Rookie of the Year, or one of the candidates for it, and I mean, he just didn't perform.
I think I got a better shot at winning Rookie of the Year than he does.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I follow the Reds, Nick Lodolo, did I pronounce it right?
Oh, Lodolo, yeah.
Lodolo, yeah, he looked pretty good from what I see. I mean, we still played fantasy baseball, so I still kept up on it somewhat, just not what I was accustomed to. I mean, they got some exciting prospects. Hunter Green, I think, still needs some seasoning, but he showed flashes as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, though, they're probably a couple of years out.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a good nucleus of young guys, and especially the 3 guys they have in that rotation with Graham Ashcraft, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo. And they can build off what they did this year. I mean, they could be something. They could be a force to be reckoned with in 2024. And I mean, you still have guys like Brandon Williamson, who they got from the Mariners in the Winker and Suarez trade, who didn't come up this year, which I was kind of surprised about. I thought he would probably crack the rotation at some point, but never did. And they've got a lot of arms in the bullpen that ended up getting hurt about midway through the season that I think will really help next year, because we lost a lot of games in the bullpen. So,
do you think their ownership will spend any money to make the team better? You think they're just going to go kind of not the Guardians route, because the Reds obviously wouldn't re-sign their best player like the Guardians did.
Yeah.
But do you think they're just going to kind of stay the course and maybe try to gamble on some rebound guys and stay the course?
I think that's what's going to happen next year. We may surprise. If we do any better, I wouldn't expect us to finish any better than third. It stinks because it's Joey Votto's last contract year. I wish and I hope that if he does play beyond next year, it's with the Reds, even if it's a reduced role. I'd hate to see him sign somewhere else just to be a name. I think he's pretty valuable to have around. I mean, even if he's not playing, I think the guys like having him around. And I mean, just learn from him,
I was surprised when he was out for the year. He was doing some Reds baseball games, commentating. I'm surprised by how good he was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he shocked everybody the first game of the year, that national game they had with the Braves. He did that inning on TV, when he was playing first base, and everyone was kind of like, man, we should put a live mic on him more often.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was, he did the Field of Dreams game, same way, played an inning with that. And then he ended up getting hurt. And I kind of had the feeling something was going on with him because the swing didn't look right from about early July on. And something's not right with Joey. And then, sure enough, he shut it down and had shoulder surgery. And then he shows up in the TV booth, and he even did some games on the radio, which were pretty awesome because I think he was more nervous on the radio than he was on TV. They actually let him do like full play-by-play, and it was pretty neat. He was trying to, every batter that would come up, he would give all their stats, and if they hit it anywhere, I mean, he was trying to paint the picture. And it was funny to listen to, but I mean, he almost seems like a natural just talking about the game. And I mean, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, he obviously showed that he has a career. Whether I would not be the least bit surprised if he didn't. I think the Reds would be smart to try to lock him in, but I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see him on ESPN.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
or one of those guys like the Jim Thome or the Sean Casey on MLB Network, just kind of stop in every once in a while. And
yeah, I will tell you right now, Sean Casey on the MLB Network is a fucking national treasure.
Oh, you ought to listen to the Jim Day podcast with Sean Casey.
I will make that appointment listening tomorrow, actually, now.
Yeah, they are absolute gems.
Oh, he
gets so excited.
He is a hell of a good interview. He's been on Pat McAfee's show a couple times, and he's a hoot on that show. So, yeah, I'll definitely give that a listen.
Yeah, it's must-listen podcast material right there.
Well, moving away from our teams, the Guardians and the Reds, obviously the big story in baseball this year was Aaron Judge's home run chase. He's the official for the single season hit the most home runs in the American League. Yeah. I did want to get your thoughts because I've kind of wavered on this over the years. A lot of people seem to think that he is the all-time single-season home run king, period. Forgetting about, the seasons of Bonds and McGuire and Sosa. What do you think?
All right, so I'm a Barry Bonds fan.
Oh, yeah. Me and my brother were just like, I can't believe he fucking likes this guy. I appreciated his talent on the field, but if there's one player I hated in baseball, it was Barry Bonds.
The thing about Bonds and McGuire and Sosa is there's different eras of baseball. You have the dead ball era, the live ball era, steroid era. It's all the way the games were played at that time. We don't know everyone that was on steroids. We don't know what everyone was doing. I mean, Hank Aaron had even admitted at one time taking greenies.
Mm-hmm.
And
not Mike Greenberg, the ESPN host, but uppers, basically.
Yeah.
You said greenies. I've always wanted to use that joke, and it probably is going to sound fucking horrible when this comes out, but go ahead.
Well, it was just the way the game was played at that time. I mean, pitchers were using, hitters were using. Now, Bonds never failed a drug test, but I think anybody can look at him from 1998 to 2002 and know that the man was on something. I mean, 1998, he looked like a normal human being. 2002, he looked like he'd been drinking the brain tonic that Ken Griffey Jr. was in that episode of The Simpsons. I mean, his head was giant.
Before you go any further, I'm just going to say a Simpsons reference is why you and I are friends. That was one of my favorite Simpsons episodes.
That. Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
But
I mean, Bonds is a single-season home run leader. Whether it was clean or not, baseball still recognizes it as a record. He's the all-time home run leader, as much as that kills me because I love Hank Aaron. I love everything about that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it kills me that, I mean, I'm a huge Barry Bonds fan, but we all know that wasn't, he didn't do that on his, I mean, he had some type of performance enhancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it does kill me that he's not the home run king anymore, but it's just the era that we played in. Are we going to erase the stats from the dead ball era when pitchers could basically cut the ball up with the knife, and the only time they ever replaced the ball during the game was if it started to unravel? I mean, the game would be completely different if it was the same rules it was back in the early 1900s.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at too. Like for a while there, I was very pro, like, don't recognize the record.
Yeah.
They cheated. But then, like, as I've grown older and, like, you know, reading, like, you seem like there's always stories about this stuff coming out all the time. And, like, as these guys have retired or getting in the Hall of Fame, and there's always these cases to be made for or against them, I've kind of, like, basically decided that with the amount of guys that have been caught, just think about the guys that never got caught.
Yeah.
I would be probably willing to bet that 60 to 70% of the league was using something.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, guys were like, you know, like, say, for me, if I was a player that just got called up, and the difference between me sticking around on the team or heading back to, like, Salt Lake City and never making it back up is using, like, you know, some kind of steroid or whatever, I'm probably going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, whether I end up looking like, I go from looking like how I do now, the Pillsbury Doughboy, to where I go looking like the Ultimate Warrior. But, I mean, when there's millions of dollars on the line, people are going to do whatever they can to keep that up. And,
yeah.
I mean, it sucks. I personally, as I've gotten older too, I think that since I've been a baseball fan, that's the best era of baseball, really.
Yeah, it was the most exciting time.
Yeah, and I mean, I know a lot of people that after that strike in '94 were just done with it. I had tons of friends like, all right, I'm done watching it now. Like, you know, it's basically like greedy players, greedy owners fighting over more money. And then, like, Bonds and McGuire and Sosa and Griffey and all these guys.
Yeah.
Just hitting home runs like it's nothing. Like, I'm fucking tuning in. I remember I missed out on so much that summer of McGuire and Sosa simply because I didn't want to miss a home run.
Yeah.
I was like, that's peak partying days for me. And it's like, hey, do you want to go out, get drunk or something? Like, no, I'm actually, I want to see if Mark McGuire hits a home run tonight. So no thanks, guys.
Yep.
Come get me in October.
Those games were, those games, you'd watch Sammy in the afternoon on WGN, And then you would catch Baseball Tonight, and they'd usually have the live look-in of McGuire's at bats. I mean, it was just a fun time to try to be a baseball fan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, chasing a record that stood for 30-plus years, and I mean, it stinks that it had to fall the way it did, but we didn't know at the time. I mean, it was just.
I mean, I think for me a little bit, like, I knew something was up when, like, McGuire's getting called out on, I forget the.
Oh, the Androstine that he had.
Yeah,
his,
I was
his
trying not to butcher it, but then I think, like, this show I fuck up the pronunciation of something at least once. I knew something was up when, like, that got called out. And someone brought that to attention, like, oh, okay, this is getting a little interesting. But I didn't care.
No.
I mean, when you've got these guys, like, these guys were built like Greek gods, just, like, annihilating baseballs. Like, I fucking loved it.
Yeah,
not to take anything away from Aaron.
great.
Not to take anything away from Aaron Judge's year, though. I mean, like, post-steroid era, best season of a hitter of all, in this era. Agree, disagree?
Yeah, I mean, a power hitter, yeah. I mean, what was was Giancarlo Stanton chasing it in 2017 and just fell short? I mean, that was fun to watch. And I don't really think there's been too many that have been 50. Like, I think Adrian Beltre had a year of like 49 or so. I know there's someone that I'm missing that hit 50, but I mean, it was that, and I think 17 with Stanton, the Marlins. Those are the closest anyone's come to getting 61, 62.
Mm-hmm. That does lead me to my next question. I guess going to the next category here. When I was kind of molding this show and what we were going to talk about, I thought about, like, what would be the big storyline of the year. I think it's obviously the Judge home run chase. I think Tatis getting busted for roids is a little bit too. But when I was looking at, because I wanted just to give our awards predictions, like, who do you think is going to win the awards? And before I did my research, I'm like, oh, fuck, Aaron Judge is a shoo-in for the American League MVP.
Yeah.
Then I did a little digging, and I was looking at Shohei Ohtani's stats.
Yeah.
And basically, his stats translate into, I would say he's probably a top 5 pitcher and a top 15 hitter in the American League.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just go ahead and dive into the predictions. I think this is probably one of the closest awards, I think. But who gets the American League MVP for you?
I mean, Aaron Judge had a great year. Problem that I have with Judge is 170 some strikeouts. I mean, don't get me wrong, great year. He had over 300, 62 home runs.
Flirted with the Triple Crown there for a while too.
Yeah. But what Shohei Ohtani did, 34 home runs, 95 RBIs, 15 wins pitching. Didn't he have over 200 strikeouts?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you can say he's not the most valuable player. I mean, he dominated on both sides of the game.
I want to go with Ohtani so bad, and I got a question about Ohtani here in a minute. I can't wrap my head around it, but I want to get your thoughts. As much as I want to give it to Ohtani, the fact that the Angels were so bad this year, I think kind of draws a lot away from his case, whereas Judge and the Yankees are in the playoffs, and a lot of it have to do with, I mean, there were spurts where Judge kind of carried them. Yeah. I mean, this isn't the Yankees of old where, like, it was just either a murderer's row of hitters or you're just getting, like, dog walked by their starting pitching staff every night.
Yeah.
I mean, I would probably lean a little bit more for Judge
Yeah.
versus Ohtani, simply because the Angels were so bad?
Yeah. I don't think there's a wrong answer on this one.
No, I think this is the one award that no matter who wins, if it's one of them two, perfectly fine.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Question I had for you about Ohtani: why isn't he a bigger star than he? I mean, he should be the biggest star in baseball.
That's the other thing. Like, baseball does such a horrible job marketing their players.
Mm-hmm.
You have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani playing on the same team, and you don't ever hear anything about them unless you go to MLB Network, and I mean, not many people are just going to tune into the MLB Network. This isn't like the NBA where they'll shove LeBron down your throat or Stephen Curry or Giannis. Why isn't MLB doing that with Trout and Ohtani and Aaron Judge and all these big names that they have that can draw in the eyeballs to watch? And it's just like they don't market them.
I think I have used my son as kind of a case study because my son is 11, and he has kind of been brought up in this more so than you and I in the world of it's like, all right, in a minute this is awesome, but then I got to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is just the fact that the NFL and the NBA have done such a great job embracing and selling their stars on social media. I think TikTok is the NBA on Instagram and TikTok, and I think the NBA is perfect for that. And I think Major League Baseball, where they fail, is they just can't seem to embrace that. This is the way you're going to market people now. You just can't do commercials, because 9 times out of 10 you're not going to see a baseball commercial on ESPN or.
Not anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you want to see a Gatorade commercial with Ronald Acuna, you're going to be watching on MLB Network.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of it too is the game requires a lot of patience, and sometimes you're going to be invested in this for a little while. And I always think that baseball, I don't want them to institute this, and they're kind of going to this a little bit, but with the NFL, actually all the other major sports, unless it goes into overtime, there's a definitive end.
Yeah.
Whereas baseball doesn't really have that. And I think sometimes that can linger, and people get bored with that, especially in today's age.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the instant gratification age is what I call it.
Yeah,
everybody's got that
great
cell
term
phone.
for it.
And you get bored, you pick up your phone.
Mm-hmm.
To find something to occupy yourself. And I find myself doing it during baseball games. I usually sit and watch a game, and if it kind of hits a point where, okay, it's kind of boring, pick up my phone and I'll just kind of listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like that in the 90s. I mean, you were glued to every pitch, and you don't have that.
And I think baseball needs to fix this, because right now live sports is in such a powerful position to where they're basically DVR proof. They're streaming proof. If you want to watch sports, you have to do it as it's happening, or else what's the point?
Yeah.
And I mean, they're in such a position to capitalize on that. And I think they need to do a better job of selling their stars. Ohtani is an international star. I mean, he's got Japan. I mean, he's my son's favorite player. My son loves Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
And the fact that he pitches and he hits, I mean, I don't understand where the disconnect is and why you're not selling this guy, forcing him down not forcing him down your throat, because he's actually a very likable person just from interviews and stuff. But why aren't you selling this guy?
Yeah, I mean, he's essentially the 2020 version of 1920 Babe Ruth.
Or Steve Nebraska.
Yeah, Steve Nebraska. One of the worst movies of all time.
I remember my buddy Jeff and I went and seen that at the theater, and we watched it, didn't say a fucking word. And as we left the theater, we just like, well, that sucked.
Yeah, I mean, your power hitter in the World Series is Ozzie Smith. Come on, the guy's got like 59 career home runs.
Yeah, that was written by a person that doesn't watch baseball.
Yeah. We need a big power hitter. Give me Ozzie Smith.
I'd have been okay, like, just brought up Jack Clark.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been better than Ozzie Smith.
At least Tommy Herr.
Yeah, they drug 42-year-old Ozzie Smith off the couch.
The Wizard of Oz. So, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I don't think there's a wrong answer for the American League MVP, but I think those are the two most viable candidates. But what about the National League MVP?
That one, I got to go with Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, just for one thing, I think the year he's had, it's almost kind of like this is his makeup Oscar. You know how, like, during the Academy Awards, a lot of times, like, actors or actresses will win the Oscar, but it's like Al Pacino as an example. He never won for The Godfather. He never won for Dog Day Afternoon or Serpico, but he won for Scent of a Woman. It's kind of like his makeup Oscar. Like, okay, well, it's good enough. We'll just go ahead and give it to him. Not saying that for Goldschmidt. I mean, Goldschmidt had a hell of a fucking season. I think he was like top 5 in like all the major categories.
Man, that was a shock to see them put out in the first round. I mean,
dude, I watched that on Saturday, and like, I am not a huge Cardinals fan, but I was kind of rooting for them simply because like I wanted to see. It's one of those things with Pujols. That was another big story too. Pujols got to 700, which I don't think we'll see again in our lifetime.
Oh no.
But I was rooting for him. I wanted to see Pujols make a run. I want to see Yachty make a run, even though, you know, being a Reds fan, like Yadier Molina is like kind of a dirty word.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about Pujols, but I will say I respect everything that they've done on the field.
Right, and I just kind of rooting for like the legends, and like this probably is going to be Wainwright's last year too. From what I've been hearing, but yeah, that was shocking to see them get bounced. Yeah,
and I mean. I didn't expect it in the fashion that it happened. Not a Cardinals fan, being a Reds fan, but I really respect the hell out of Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Like, those are probably two of my favorite non-Reds that play for an enemy, but just to see them lose, that was shocking.
Yeah, I was watching that on Saturday night. I was just like, I was kind of like, and like it made it even worse that Pujols and Yachty got hits. Yeah. The last inning. Like, I was like, okay, they're leading the charge, and then like they fell short. I was just like, as a matter of fact, after the game, I just shut the TV off, went to bed. I was like, all right, I'm fucking done with sports for the day. The Guardians got my nerves shot. Ohio State calmed me down, and then like this game. But yeah, I think Goldschmidt's the answer. I mean, just hell of a season, and plus I think he's due. He's probably one of the most underrated stars of the game. Oh yeah,
easily.
So yeah, I think that's pretty safe to give it to him. Now I think for the next award, the American League Rookie of the Year, I think this is pretty much a no-brainer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with
Rodriguez.
I'm going to go, Julio Rodriguez.
The thing that pisses me off about this season that he had is in our fantasy baseball league, I fucking drafted him, and then I needed to clear a roster spot, and I dumped him. Dumped him in April. And my son actually, I wasn't paying too much attention. He just comes up to me one random day. He goes, "Dad, what were you thinking?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You dumped Rodriguez." I'm like, "Yeah." So he goes, puts his iPad in my face. He goes, "Look at his stats." And I'm like, it's like, fuck. I'm getting scolded by my son on fantasy baseball.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like that Yoda Luke Skywalker moment. Like, okay, now my son's more powerful Jedi than I am.
Yeah, man, he had a hell of a season, 2020, and
I think he was almost 30, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on. I think he had 27 and 25.
Yeah.
And like that guy is going to be an absolute star.
I think he'll get some MVP votes too. I mean, he pretty much is one of the main reasons why the Mariners made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't even know who would be number 2. Maybe Adley Rutschman. He had a solid year, but I think he's the runaway winner for the American League Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
National League is a little tougher because I think it boils down to which Atlanta Braves you prefer.
Oh, yeah,
Michael Harris or Spencer Strider.
Spencer Strider. Yeah. So those were my 2 choices.
Yeah.
I mean, again, with Harris, I mean, he was 2020. Wasn't he 2020 too?
Almost. I think he had 18 and 20. The reason I know that is, once again, going back to our fantasy baseball league, that fucking dude sat on waivers until like mid-June. I'm like, why hasn't anybody picked him up yet? I'm like, don't mind if I do.
Yeah, no kidding.
Strider, though, I read a story about him a couple hours before we came on. Fastest to 200 strikeouts, too.
Yeah, I saw that. And, he pitched in that opening series against the Reds, and when he come out, I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
That's the thing with the Braves. It's like every year they just have these guys that just like they don't get like the publicity of like a Rodriguez or like the Torkelsons, like these elite prospects. Yeah. But yet these guys, they just seem to find a way to bring these guys up, and then they just contribute immediately.
Yeah, and it's every year. I mean, it started. You had Dansby Swanson, and you had Ozzie Albies, and then Acuna.
Well, Acuna's like a little bit of a different story.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a heralded prospect, but
I mean,
Max Fried and
there's another one.
Kyle Wright.
Yeah, Kyle Wright. Ian
Anderson.
Ian Anderson. Yeah. You're looking at the '90s Braves all over again.
Mm-hmm. They've done a smart thing, too. They've locked a lot of those guys up long-term, too, so those guys are going to be around for a while.
Yeah, that was I remember after they locked up Acuna for that real cheap price, and Chris Welsh, the Reds announcer, made that real well, I don't know how you'd want to call it, like this real I think he basically called him stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, maybe he's just not, he didn't understand what he was signing. I'm like, oh, God, like this is going to be all over TV. And sure enough, it was. And then the Reds broadcast off with him apologizing for making the comment.
Oh, I did hear about that. As I first thing popped in my head is like, oh, not again. Like,
no more Tom Brenneman comments here.
I actually, I seen Jeff Passan, the ESPN writer.
Oh yeah,
he was on Twitter the other day, and he made a comment about I forget the writer, but I know he works for Fox, and he said something about basically like being on his knees worshiping Shohei Ohtani. Yeah,
it was Ben Verlander, and he apologized for it today.
And just reading the comments, every single comment was him making a remark, and then followed by, "Here's a long fly ball to deep left." And I just scrolling through the comments, and every single one, it got to be about 60 or 70 deep. Everybody made that Castellanos joke to it. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. You win today, Internet. I think I would give it the slight edge to Michael Harris simply because he plays every day.
Yeah.
Not taking anything away from Strider. I think a kid's a stud. My son was very pleased to pick him up in fantasy baseball.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it was a good pickup. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with either choice, and I'm not going to be mad if it's either one of them. But yeah, I think Harris is probably my choice as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, always it's going to be, if it's down to a pitcher or a hitter, it's going to be the guy that plays every day because he's out there more.
Yeah.
So, see, we've gone through the rookies of the year, the MVPs. Oh, Cy Young. I'll lead off the National League. I think it's Alcantara.
Yeah.
I think simply because, Alcantara kind of has – his season is kind of like the seasons that you would expect from, like, the early to mid-'90s, like those workhorse pitchers that would throw into the eighth and ninth innings. The thing is, ERA was below 2.5. I think he had over 200 Ks.
Yeah.
I'd give it to him.
200+ innings.
Yeah, just the workhorse mentality. I don't think he missed any games or any starts either.
No. Mm-mm. I mean, there's a couple other guys you could mention. Kyle Wright had a really good year. I mean,
Max Fried as well.
Yeah. I think Kyle Wright's ERA was probably a run more than Alcantara.
Is it Alcantara or Alcantara? I've always called him Alcantara. But this could be the point of the show where I mispronounce somebody's name.
I hear them say Alcantara on MLB Network, and that's the only way I know. And then also on the show, when I play, I'll hear Boog Sciambi call him Alcantara.
All right. I should have just woke my son up. He's in bed now, but I just wake him up like, hey, little buddy, I need your help.
Well, I mean, I think another one that you could mention is Tony Gonsolin.
Yeah, or even Julio Arias. They've got a couple contenders too.
I mean, Gonsolin, 16 games, 1 loss. I mean, granted, some of those wins came from the bullpen at the beginning of the year, but still, you win 16 games and only lose 1. That's pretty good. But yeah, it has to go to Alcantara. I mean, 220+ innings, 2.19 ERA. Yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah. National or the American League or Cy Young. I think it was between Cease and Verlander.
Yeah.
But Verlander missed a shitload of time though. He was out from
2 years.
Well, I mean, just even this season, he missed he was out till from mid-July till September, wasn't he? Because I know he had that. I think it was that calf injury.
Oh yeah. What did he do? He went 18-4.
Had an ERA under 2 in the American League. Well, I guess it doesn't really mean as much now as it used to, but.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Verlander will win.
Oh yeah.
Good comeback story.
And I mean, the thing with Cease is, I mean, I don't even think he was really picked to. I mean, everyone was looking at Giolito.
Mm.
And then this guy just kind of blasts right on past him.
Yeah, I mean, I know he was a heralded prospect coming up. I think he was. Wasn't he, or was it Giolito that was part of they got from the Nationals?
Giolito was what they got from the Nationals.
Okay. Didn't the Nationals get Soto from the White Sox? So I know he wasn't part of their team. I don't know. I'm not worried about fucking Juan Soto. That guy's making a shitload more money than I am, so fuck him. But
yeah.
I think Verlander's going to win it, though. I think he had a great season. I think he gets some points taken away because he missed – his ERA was able to stay where it was at, I think, because he missed a lot of starts. But, I mean, it's a great comeback story. I mean, yeah, you said 2 years removed from Tommy John. Looked like the Justin Verlander of old.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he doesn't have that fastball velocity anymore. And it's kind of like he's learned to pitch.
Yeah.
He's not just relying on rearing back and throwing 102 past someone. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what has kind of drawn me more to him now. I think everybody throws hard now. It's the guys who go out there and they might top out at 93, 94. Those are the guys you need to watch, because those are the guys that are out there that are the real masters of pitching.
I always thought that if you look at from a 90s point of view, I always thought Greg Maddux was just as intimidating to face as Randy Johnson.
Oh my gosh!
Because simply like Maddux could put it wherever he wanted to put it, and there was nothing you could do about it. Whereas Johnson was just going to blow right past you.
Yeah. Go on YouTube and watch some of those 90s Greg Maddux videos and watch the movement on that ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you got to realize he's not throwing 93, 94.
That's coming at like 88, 89 miles an hour.
And I mean, you've got 12 inches of break on a two-seam fastball. It's like, I quit.
I think Verlander gets a couple extra bonus points too, because he's married to Kate Upton.
Yeah, you all saw those leaked pictures.
Tighten your shit up, Apple.
Yeah, I didn't need to see Justin Verlander's hog either.
Nope. Nobody need to see that. Last category is the managers of the year. I think there's interesting cases on both sides.
Yeah.
Who's your pick for the American League Manager of the Year?
It's got to go to Terry Francona. I mean, don't get me wrong. Scott Service did a hell of a job in Seattle, and if he got it, I wouldn't be upset. The fact that the Guardians were not picked to win anything, and they competed all year long, and they're into the division series of the playoffs right now. It's got to go to Terry Francona.
Yeah, that was my pick too. I had thought about Scott Service because this is the first time the Mariners have been in the playoffs in quite a long time. How many years has that been? It's the A-Rod era.
Yeah, the last year was 2001? 21 years? Or was it 2000?
I think it was 2000 and 2001.
They won 116 games.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that was the last year they were in the playoffs.
I also thought about Brandon Hyde because the Orioles, I thought for sure were going to be fucking awful again this year. And then they end up being above 500. And they were in the playoff hunt up till like the last week or so of the season.
Yeah. It's a good pick there, too.
I'm going with Tito as well, just because we thought the Indians were kind of baked for a while. They are the youngest team in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
I think just the job he done, they got back in and they ended up like winning the Central very handily. I mean, I guess having Jose Ramirez in the heart of your lineup helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Tito is going to win. But yeah, I mean, all those guys got great shots. I mean, Service did a hell of a job. Brandon Hyde. I mean, the Orioles are not the laughing stock of the AL East anymore.
Yeah. Oh, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those prospects from being bad all those years are finally starting to come up.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, we both have a mutual friend that's a huge Red Sox fan that loves to tout the fact he's a Red Sox fan. I'm kind of getting a little satisfaction that the Red Sox are fucking awful.
It's about time. It's only been forever since they really haven't competed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why. Like, I see the standings. I seen the Red Sox down there, and I was like, oh, man, that brings a smile to my face a little bit. And it's not he's a good dude. And I think we over-exaggerate like him, being pro Red Sox. It just, I don't know. I got some satisfaction out of seeing. I think the Red Sox is just the fact that, for me anyways, the two teams I hate the absolute most in baseball, the Red Sox and the Yankees.
Yeah.
And I think that we have a friend that's like, for me anyways, is a fan of like one of the teams I hate the most. It's just kind of satisfying.
Yeah. I understand.
NL Manager of the Year. I think this one's kind of a close race too. Dave Roberts has a case. Brian Snitker. I think he would have been my pick just because it seems like every year you think the Braves are out of it for a while, and then all of a sudden they just like, oh, it's June. We might as well actually start playing hard. And then they just put it on cruise control, and they're just damn near unstoppable. I know the Phillies fired Joe Girardi early in the year, and what's his name, Rob Thompson?
Rob Thompson. Yeah.
I don't know why.
That was going to be my pick.
I thought it was they hired Robbie Thompson, the old Giant second baseman.
That's what I thought too. And I'm like, I thought that guy was dead or something.
Yeah. I had to wait and see a picture of him. Like, wait a minute, that's not Robbie Thompson.
Yeah.
He's got a good case too, just because like the Phillies, considering their payroll, and they did not look good. I mean, you fire your fucking manager early in the year, that's not a good look. And the fact that they're taking it to the Braves, and they knocked out the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I'm okay giving it to him. I think he's probably the most deserving, just because the Phillies were managing in probably like one of the toughest sports markets in the United States, if not the toughest. Team had huge expectations, didn't live up to them at the beginning, so they shit-canned their manager, who has a couple of World Series titles, comes in, gets them to the playoffs, knock out, I think the Cardinals probably were one of the favorites, I would have thought, between them, the Braves, and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he reeled that team in, and I mean, I really thought that when they fired Girardi, I'm like,
I was expecting to see a Phillies fire sale.
Yeah. I just thought, they may try to trade Castellanos, or try to bring up their young guys, try to get rid of Schwarber.
Nola, I thought would have been like somebody could have went to.
But
I also like looking at like Dave Roberts, so can't discount him. Dodgers had the best record. I know they had the best record in the National League. Did they have the best record in baseball?
Yeah, 111 wins.
Yeah, best season ever for the Dodgers, if I read that right. I think he will probably win simply because of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well,
I just don't want to. I don't want the Dodgers to win. The Dodgers would be in that. The Dodgers would be in that small group of teams I don't like either.
Yeah, no. That's one of those teams that I grew up hating, just because they always had that rivalry with the Reds.
Mm-hmm.
And
back in the ye olden days when there was two divisions in each league.
Yeah, and the Reds played in the West of all.
Dude, don't even get me fucking. We could do a whole episode on how geographically bad baseball used to be. The Cardinals were in the East.
Yeah, the Cubs and the Cardinals were in the East, but the Reds were in the West.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Braves, I think, were in the West too, weren't they?
Yeah, because remember they played the
Pirates, who were in the East. Yeah. I'm glad baseball got their shit together. I mean, well, even when they realigned them, they still didn't have them great at first. I think they're probably about as good as it's going to get right now. But
yeah.
Got one more question to ask you before we wrap this up. We're almost at an hour in. What's your World Series prediction? Who's going to make it, and then who wins?
Oh man, my heart says it's going to be the Dodgers and the Astros, and this is the year the Dodgers get their revenge.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, well, let me rephrase that. My head is saying that. My heart would love to see the Mariners, because they have Winker, Suarez, and Castillo, and Kirk Casale, all my former Reds.
And Jesse Winker.
Yeah, and Winker. I'd love to see them play the Phillies just because I would really like to see Castellanos get. I mean, I really grew to like that guy when he was with the Reds. Just his demeanor and the way he played the game. I appreciated that he was there to win. I mean, he wasn't there to dance around and
just make money and put up stats. Yeah.
And I mean, you even saw that with the Phillies this year when he got into that argument with that reporter in the middle of the season. It's just that guy's not one you want to joke around with, and he's there to do a job, and I appreciated that. Mm-hmm. And I would love to see him have the opportunity to play for a World Series.
Yeah. I will see your picks. My heart's pick is obviously going to be the Guardians. Yeah. I would love to see that, although the last 2 times they've made it to the World Series, I've had my heart broken, and I would almost rather see them get swept than the last 2 times they've lost a World Series.
Crushing.
I remember when they lost to the Cubs, man, like I was a fucking wreck the next day. Like first off, the game didn't end until super late, and then like I was just an emotional wreck. I went into work the morning. I flat out told my manager and everyone, I was like, "Don't fucking talk to me today. I just want to be left alone today."
I get that. I was so invested in that series, and I kept thinking, I was like, "This is the year the Indians win it," and watched that game, and then there was the rain delay, and I'm like, oh God, I can't go to sleep, and I got to be at work at 8:30.
I'd be at work at 7 that morning too, yeah. And then like I remember I woke when Rajay Davis hit the home run. I woke my wife up because I screamed.
Yeah.
And I think I remember telling her like, make plans. We're going to Cleveland in a couple of days, and of course that didn't fucking happen. I think I jinxed it, but. Yeah, I want to. My heart is wanting to pick the Guardians and the Braves. I think my head is going to go with a rematch from last year.
Okay.
And I think the Braves will win it again. I think that once, like it seems like the last couple of years, it's just that team knows how to win.
Oh yeah.
And I think they just got too much for anybody in the American League. I mean, the Astros are tough.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that the Braves are the only team that could go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers. That's American or National League.
Yeah.
So I think really the winner of the National League is going to win the World Series. I think it'll either be the Dodgers or the Braves. But I'm taking the Braves just because I don't like the Dodgers. Fuck those guys. Yeah. It pains me to say that because Magic Johnson owns them, and I'm a huge Magic Johnson fan. But fuck the Dodgers.
No, I mean I would love to see the Guardians win it. If the Astros won it, I'd be happy for Dusty.
Yeah.
Everybody else, fuck those guys.
Yeah, that would be the one thing I would root for the Dodgers is because I've always liked Dusty Baker, and it just seems like he's always been the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah.
He's had some really good teams. He just can't get to the finish line. And
yeah, I mean, he's been to the World Series a couple of times and no luck. And, yeah, I would love to see Dusty get it and then him just retire and be done.
I honestly think that if that were to happen with the Guardians and they win, I think Francona does the same thing. Like, that's that's the way to walk off. Longest World Series drought. You lead that team to a World Series, like, fuck, there's nothing left for me to prove. I'm done.
Yeah,
that's also what I'm afraid of, too. It's like,
you did it with the Red Sox, and then you go out and you do it with the Guardians, and yeah. But you're right. Like, what happens after? Who do they bring in then? Sandy Alomar Jr.?
I'd be okay with that. I think Sandy's a good coach.
Yeah, I could live with that. My whole thing, you change the manager, you change the the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And they really have a good thing going there. And you'd hate to see it be tore down.
Well, yeah, I think if it came down to it, like I think we're kind of grasping at straws because, like, realistically, I don't think I think the Guardians are still a few years away from being a legit World Series contender. But if that came to be, like, they won, I would seriously write Terry Francona like a handwritten letter, because you write a letter, that means a lot more than an email. And I was like, I would beg him to come back. Like, I'll name like my next dog I'll call him Tito. I'll legally get my kid's name changed to Tito. Whatever you want, dude. Just come back.
Yeah.
We need you, Tito. All right. Well, before we wrap this up, anything last comments you want to add?
Nope. I mean, looking forward to next year. I mean, everybody's going to play everybody next year. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that'll be interesting. I still kind of miss the old 80s, 90s when we were growing up, when the American League played the American League and the National League played the National League, and the only time they played against each other was the All-Star Game and the World Series. I think that's kind of the magic that's kind of missing.
Yeah, a little bit. Although I will say I actually really liked it when they just played like a division. Like, okay, like the National League Central, this year you can count on them playing the American League East.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, when that was happening, I was like, okay, I would look at the schedule, like, okay, cool. The Yankees are coming to play the Reds this year. We'll go see the Yankees. You went to that game with me? That motherfucker I was wearing that Yankees hat, and he took it and he flung it, and I was about ready to fucking bust him right in the old CS.
I heard that story, but yeah, I wasn't at that one.
I thought you were. Who was? I must have been like, I know Chad was, my brother, but I think our Red Sox buddy was there too. But I was so pissed off. But yeah, like I know, I can always count on like the Indians would be there every year, so I'd get to see them, and
yeah,
you'd always they'd have those special attractions. Now, like when the teams now they can kind of come into town more often, it's kind of lost its luster, really.
Yeah, I mean,
plus I think it takes a little bit of the importance out of like the league play, because I mean, like the Reds are not playing like the Braves as much, or the Dodgers are not coming in as much either.
Well, I mean, if you look back on those old World Series games or the All-Star games that they play, if you have Pluto, they show those old highlights all the time. And, you had Rick Russell against Bo Jackson. Like, oh, man,
that's a fucking random-ass name. Like, that'd just be like our Red Sox friend used to drop, like, random text messages to me, and he would just name off a random baseball player. Just that was the text message. It'd be like Rich Yet, and that was it.
Yeah.
So we would just have this game back and forth where we would just name, like, okay, I'll see you Rich Yet. I'll raise you a Scott Garrelts.
Oh, man, yeah, that was fun to play. Just a bunch of random common baseball names.
My son was into collecting baseball cards for a little while, mm-hmm. And his uncle, not my brother, but my wife's brother, gave him a gigantic tote of old cards. And it was like a mix. There was like basketball and football and baseball in there. And as my son's going through this, he was just asking me who these old guys were.
Yeah.
Like, he found like a Billy Hatcher card. And he goes, "Who's Billy Hatcher?" I'm like, "Son, that's a hero of the 1990 World Series Reds team. Don't you disrespect him."
Nope.
And then he'd pull out, like, I don't know, like Glenn Davis, not Big Baby from the NBA, but like mustachioed.
Oh, man.
Houston Astros, Baltimore Orioles first baseman. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, man, it's been fun. It's always an awesome time talking to you. And I really want to do a baseball episode. And I was like, man, Jason's the guy for the job.
Hey, I'm always up to talk baseball.
Yeah, man, we'll have to have you back on soon, dude.
All right, sounds good.
All right, take it easy, buddy.
All right, you too.
And that will do it for today's episode. We hope you guys and gals enjoyed what you heard. Be sure to follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to get all the latest show updates. If you did like what you heard today, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We drop episodes each and every Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on a single episode of the Couch Potato Podcast. So until next Tuesday, we will talk to you guys later.